A thing like that should have never been written, it should never been had, and it should certainly never have been released.
I always wondered, what did Russia have on Donald Trump?
Mr. Trump and House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi reacting very differently to that unverified Russian dossier that supposedly has compromising information on the new president. And it's time now for our Sunday group. Gerald Seib, executive Washington editor of the Wall Street Journal. Bob Woodward from the Washington Post. Former Democratic Congresswoman Jane Harman, director of the Woodrow Wilson Center, and Washington Examiner contributor Lisa Booth. Well, Bob, what do you think, and this is something we discussed with both of our guests, of the way that the intelligence community handled the so-called Russia dossier? And overall, how do you think of the way they've handled Donald Trump?
I think what's underreported here is Trump's point of view on it. And you laid it out when those former CIA people said these things about Trump, that he was a recruited agent of the Russian...
Useful fool.
Yeah, and a useful fool. I mean, they started this, and in Trump's mind, he knows the old adage, once a CIA man, always a CIA man. And no one came out and said those people shouldn't be saying things. So then Act Two is the briefing when this dossier is put out. I've lived in this world for 45 years where you get things and people make allegations. That is a garbage document. It never should have been presented as part of an intelligence briefing. As you suggested, other channels have the White House counsel give it to Trump's incoming White House counsel. So Trump's right to be upset about that, and I think if you look at the real chronology and the nature of the battle here, those intelligence chiefs who are the best we've had, who are terrific and have done great work, made a mistake here, and when people make mistakes, they should apologize.
Well, let me bring in the former top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, Congresswoman Harman. You know, there is this sense that an awful lot of information that the intelligence community developed about Russia hacking, the garbage dossier, new phrase, that it got public. And can't you understand how Donald Trump would end up feeling like these guys are trying to knife him?
Yes, I can understand that. But from the other side, I can understand that very careful and highly trained intelligence professionals think they're being dissed. John Brennan just said that in hindsight he might have done some things differently. I agree with Bob. There was another way to handle that salacious two-page, unsubstantiated dossier. But I think the intelligence community seriously has put out its case starting in early October when Jay Johnson and I think it was Mike Rogers put out the case that there was Russian hacking. And I think it's important for Donald Trump and his good cabinet picks, Dan Coats and Mike Pompeo, to end this war for two reasons. Number one, we need...
The war, we should say, with the intelligence community.
Yes, the war with the intelligence community. For two reasons. Number one, we need these guys. They're on the front lines now in undisclosed locations. I have visited them all over the world. They're fabulous. We need them. We need truth to power. But the second reason is we need our allies to have confidence in the Trump-Intel relationship and not think that if they share information with us, which is crucial for us understanding threats to the United States, it won't be compromised in some way.
All right, I want to change dramatically. Jerry, you were one of the two reporters for the Wall Street Journal that conducted that interview over the weekend with President-elect Trump. How dramatically does it seem to you he wants to reshape our relations both with Russia and China?
Well, that's not clear, but what is clear is that the mindset is totally different. This is everything is open for negotiation kind of an approach to the two biggest countries outside the U.S. in the world, the two most important, Russia and China. And he literally said with China, everything is open to negotiation, including the one China policy. This is the policy by which the U.S. has for years and years recognized Beijing as the one and only true representative government of the people of China, not Taiwan. And on Russia sanctions, he said, I'll keep the sanctions in place for a while, but we'll see how the Russians behave. And it's very much a transactional kind of an approach to foreign policy. You're nice to us, we'll find ways to be nice to you, and vice versa. And it's going to be different. I mean, people will argue the wisdom of it, but the one thing that's clear is that the mindset going going in is going to be different.
The Senate started holding confirmation hearings for Trump's cabinet picks this week, and one of the things that everyone noticed is the sharp differences between the nominees and Mr. Trump. Let's put some of them up on the screen. There were real differences over the threat posed by Russia, waterboarding, building a wall, and tearing up the Iran nuclear deal.
My number one priority is to dismantle the disastrous deal with Iran.
It is an imperfect arms control agreement. It's not a friendship treaty. But when America gives her word, we have to live up to it and work with our allies.
Lisa, are we headed for a constructive debate, divergent opinions in the Trump cabinet, or are we headed for chaos?
I think we are. I mean, look, Donald Trump.
Well, which one?
Good point. No, I think it's going to be constructive. So to answer that for clarity's sake. But, you know, look, I mean, Donald Trump can't win here because he got a lot of criticism during the general election that he wouldn't take the advice of counsel, that he wouldn't take the advice of advisors. But he has surrounded himself with some very smart and capable people, as the CIA director pointed out in his interview with you, as far as General Mattis goes. And I think he'll have a lot more faith in the intelligence community when he does have some people there that he trusts, like someone like Mike Pompeo. In regards to Russia as well, I think the biggest problem here is the distrust, the erosion of trust in just institutions at large. When you have the fact that the media reported something that the New York Times said was very difficult to check, and even what can be checked is problematic, when the fact that you have sitting members of Congress saying that they're not going to recognize President-elect Trump as the president because he is illegitimate, when you have individuals that are calling for the abolishment of the Electoral College and we're calling for electors to defect. So I think the biggest problem that we are dealing with right now is the erosion of trust in all of the institutions, whether it's the intelligence community, the media, and government at large.
All right. We're going to take a break here, and it certainly is worth noting. I think that Barack Obama came into office on this same week with an approval rating in the 60s, and Donald Trump's approval rating is in the 40s. So there is, everybody's at loggerheads here in Washington.